Good morning.
Good morning, Jared. Hi.
How y'all doing?
Hey, Jared.
Good morning.
I'm good.
Yeah, I was trying to get in as soon as possible. I have a closing that's happening right now, and my client's with the notary, and he decides they want to ask every question that the Alta statement actually gives them. So, but hey, let's go ahead and get started. How's everybody doing this morning? You guys all doing well after the weekend?
Yep, doing good.
Perfect. Let's start off some wins. You know, we do that every week, and wins are either things you're celebrating or what's important now in your business. You know, like maybe one real important, maybe training you're doing, an experience you're having. What's something that's really important right now you're dealing with?
I can go. Do you hear
Go
me?
ahead.
Oh, yeah. I've been working on my, I guess you would call it my secondary website. I'm niching down to mainly on the buyer side so that I can push off the loans to Tracy. So I've been doing a lot of training with my AI and starting to do more postings and videos and stuff like that.
Good. That's great, man. I love hearing how you took some of those learnings and running with it. Who else? Who wants to share what's important now or what you're celebrating?
I'll go, Jared. I'm
Yeah.
I just started. I brought on like essentially a new transaction coordinator. You know Kelly Gomez.
Yeah.
She's gonna help me start doing. She's gonna be my transaction coordinator. She's gonna help me. I'm buying a drone. She's gonna help me do some content with the drone. Just kind of get everything tightened up better. Because we both have a TC, and sometimes it's better to have like one person that's just helping you because she has a lot of agents. So I'm hoping to get better organized and really get some more marketing out there. Creating a brand.
Yeah, that's something I'm going to be talking a bit about today. But Gabe, I mean, that's a great prelude to it. Just you got to build your team. So when you're working with people, they know you have a great team, and it's one acquisition time, the right person, right timing. And Gabe, you can attest to that makes a big difference in freeing you up to do what you're good at, huh?
No, yeah, for sure. Like today, I mean, I have to go to. I mean, I don't have to go to an appraisal, but like we're really tight. But I have a million other things that I can be doing to generate more business, right? So I'm like, hey, just come in, pick up the comps, go meet the guy, be done with it, But I need to do that as well. I need to make sure my deals are closing. So if I can just, empower someone else to go for me and help me with that, then I can stay here, generate a bit more business. Then we're good.
That's awesome. No, that's great stuff. Who else? Who else is celebrating something? Eric, I know you are. What are you celebrating?
Well, I got an offer submitted over the weekend, and the Solaire, not my listing, and another possible one coming. And just like hearing a lot about foreclosures now. I've had 2 people ask me in the past day to get them a foreclosure or a short sale. A lot of that coming up, so I am a little excited for that.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Now, again, I'll expand on that here in just a little bit, but that's kind of ties in with what I'm talking about today. So that's great that you're doing. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yes, yeah, I'm looking forward to see like what I can get for these ladies, because if there are a lot of foreclosures and short sales coming out, then I'm just gonna go back to working it. So,
No, absolutely.
not fun. It's a lot of work, but it if they want to buy it, I get commission. I could get commission from the bank, and I don't want to talk about the other part. I don't know if I should say anything else, but there's like other ways to make money with short sales. So if it comes up, then I will definitely take it on.
That's awesome. No, that's great to hear. Anyone else want to? Thomas, anything you want to share?
Yeah, speaking on a short sale, the dirty work, right? So Gabe has this client we're tag teaming on. They specialize in evictions, foreclosures, tax liens, and there's a lot of dirty work. So instead of saying, "Oh, we'll figure it out," or "We don't really have a solution," we just say yes, right? And Gabe's like, "Just say yes," and I say, "Yeah, we'll just say yes and figure out later." So we're on our second eviction. We just finished that last week, and then the house just got cleaned out, landscaping, photos, pictures should be coming today, and then Kelly's gonna be on it for the MLS. But that's 2 up to potentially maybe 10 a month from the same client, and then the first property we went through like 3 truckloads of garbage to get that out, but then she wanted 415 and we got an offer on underwriting for 410. So it's dirty work, right? And it might not be the sexiest home, but at the end of the day, it's still real estate. So sometimes, it's sexy to do a first-time home buyer, right? FHA, conventional, show beautiful homes. But then the other times, it's the investors that need help too. So it's a win-win on if you can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, no, it's funny. The
That's
photographer,
awesome,
the photographer we use for that too. He's like, "Are you gonna send me some pretty homes eventually?" I'm like, "No, bro, no, bro." And it's nice because she pays 6%, and she's cool with us making 4 on it. So it's like, pay the other. So it's they're nice listings, because normally investors are like, "I only want to pay 2 on each side," So she's cool with paying the 6, and then she's cool with this, getting the 4, and the other person getting 2. So it's nice.
I would be doing those all day long.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the money in the account is still the same money in the account. Doesn't care matter how pretty they are.
Exactly. Yeah, and they're like accepting, like, all the money has to go hard. Like they only take really good offers, and I'm like, and it's nice to some people know, like, they're not budging. Sorry, versus like there's an emotional tie to it. Sometimes I like it when it's just a number. Nope, the number doesn't make sense. Sorry, keep it moving. So they're a good client.
That's awesome. No, very cool. Very cool. Anybody else?
Through the Buddha-like work of Trent, finally got this couple pre-approved, which was the equivalent of passing a stone. So thank God for that. Now it's just having the husband understand that, you're retired and your girlfriend here is not looking to drive an hour and a half to work every day. To get them on the same page, and we're slowly getting there. So that was a big hurdle though, because his credit finally came up. So it's a positive.
No, that's awesome. And here's the thing, those who have done it for a while with real estate realize this. You have to learn to kind of celebrate even the small W's along the way, because real estate is a ride. And there's times you can do a lot of work and have deals fall apart and get paid nothing. But, it's like, in order to keep your momentum going forward, keeping your energy positive, it is critical that you just keep a mindset of like, what am I doing right? Where am I winning? And then keep doing those things. Right now, it's like for me, the year started, I've been really busy, but it hasn't translated into closings as much as I wanted, because I dealt with a lot of problem child sellers or situations. In doing so, I've had multiple delayed closings that were supposed to close in February to March. And whereas today, I'm actually having 3 closings today. It just happened. All of these that have been delayed all fell on today. So, this morning, even with that, without being funded, but still getting ready to go sign, I'm having to deal with a problem child. But it's like making sure that I keep it on course to get it to the finish line, to get it funded, to get it done. And so, just because something's not working out in your timeline, it's important that you stay the course, because, I realized there was many deals early on that fell apart in real estate that I look back at now, knowing what I know, that I could have saved or salvaged. I just didn't know what I didn't know. And so there's certain things along the way that I've learned. And so what I want to talk about today is something that I'm going to be sharing a bit on Thursday. I've been invited by Aura to be the main speaker on Thursday morning to talk about how to unlock listings and really to share about what I do and how I do it. So I figured I would just take some time this morning to touch on really some things that I'm going to be sharing with them. Just so you know, Michelle sent you a PDF. Michelle, did you already send that? You should probably have it in your box.
Yeah, it's sent.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. It's also going to be on the Google Drive, but I titled it "The Rise of the Solutionist: Winning Listings by Solving Problems Others Ignore." And one of the most powerful realizations that I had, since early on in real estate, when I started, I was like, I want to be a listing agent. I want to be a listing agent. But anybody knows that it usually starts with the grind of becoming a buyer's agent, doing open houses, doing those things. I was out every weekend, just learning. It didn't happen overnight to become a listing agent, but as I gained my confidence and I built a network and built relationships and opportunities, those came. What I didn't realize until I started doing more listings was necessarily what I thought or what I was receiving from a coach. It was actually what my clients were telling me. Over and over again, I'd hear my clients say to me, Jared, you're different. You always find a way. And what I realized they were telling me was that they were calling me a solutionist. And that really I had kind of an aha moment. And I remember talking to somebody and they basically reinforced that. They said, the one thing about you strategically is you see things, but you also don't look at them as problems. You just provide solutions. And that's something I started doing more and more at. But as I began looking at how do I expand my business, I began looking at niches. So going back like 3 or 4 weeks ago when we taught on niches, I began to look at what are some niches that I can go after. And I looked at divorce. I looked at homes that were older, because I used to do flips, the ability to come in and flip home for people, probate situation, things that a lot of agents don't want to do or don't know how to do. And I just basically said, I'm going to be committed to learning how to do it. And then I'm going to provide solutions where I can give people confidence, give them clarity, and give them peace in the process so they don't have to carry the full weight of it. And so as a solutionist, it's not just somebody that lists homes. A solutionist is someone who steps into complexity, brings clarity, and creates outcomes where others see obstacles. Now, most agents operate like, what's the price? Let me figure out what the price your home's going to be. Or when do you want to list it? A solutionist, they operate like this. What problems are we solving here? What's standing in the way from this home being a successful sale? How do we remove every obstacle before we go to the market? Now, how many can you attest? So, Gabe, you just talked about some of the things you're facing. How on your listings, Gabe, how often are you facing obstacles prior to even going on the market?
All the time. Literally.
Can you elaborate on that? What are some obstacles you face personally as a listing agent?
I had one literally. This has happened with Thomas and I. Right, we needed to do so. First of all, to get insurance, they needed to replace the bottom part of the water heater. So I had my contractor go over there, like on a fly, did it within 24 hours. As soon as he started draining the water, like it turns out there was some cap that was never sealed off or something, and the ceiling fell down in. The whole ceiling of the living room caved down.
Wow.
And yeah, so like, yeah, so I'm like, oh my gosh, and the seller lives in, it's an inherited house. The seller lives in North Carolina. I'm like, man, this is gonna cost money. I can get it done ASAP. So I ended up getting a plumber. I got a drywall guy. I got a painter. I had to assemble all these different people. But I was able to get it done within 2 days. So it looked like nothing ever happened. And that stuff like that happens all the time.
So you went and repaired it yourself?
Yeah, exactly. I went and took care of it. Exactly.
So. Now, so like in a situation, do you have a team of contractors that went and did that for you?
Correct. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So your solution was you already had contractors built up through a relationship ready to go so that when the problem happened, you weren't out there fixing it yourself. You had that team, right?
Yeah. And then I worked it out with them where they they got paid at closing. They were cool with it. So I told the seller, don't worry about it, because obviously it was like almost $4,000 that they weren't expecting, and we're closing in like 3 days. So I'm like, hey, so I told my contractor, hey, is it cool if you wait till closing? And we're right there. So yeah, so we were able to get that done. So it was a win-win for everybody.
Gabe, honestly, that is the perfect example, because what Gabe just told you is the very thing I'm talking about. It's not only to win listings, but going through listings to get them to the finish line. Because again, it can be a bumpy road. Things happen from inspection, or things happen when you least expect it. I mean, I've had it where a house had a small house fire, and it's like, okay, so how are we going to roll with this? The key thing is your solutions are many times found in your team. So in this case, Gabe had a contractor that he was able to contact. He also understood the financial constraint of somebody coming up with $4,000. That's unexpected, when a lot of times their equity is tied up in their home. So rather than saying, well, this sucks and it's going to fall apart, Gabe provided a solution, be able to say, hey, contractor, will you get paid at closing? And you took that pressure and tension off of your client to make it an easy yes, right? So that being the case, that makes Gabe a solutionist.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
He was super happy. He didn't care how much it costed. Like literally, I could have told him double the price and he was fine.
And honestly, that's what it comes down to, because many times people, they want a solution, and they're busy and life happens and they're willing to write the check, but they don't want to deal with it. It's just one more thing. And that's the thing, that the truth that most agents miss is listings are not just one at the presentation. It's one at the moment that sellers feel understood. It's when a seller thinks, this person understands me, they see me, and they already have a plan. Or that you're no longer competing, or you become that obvious choice. If you want to transform your business, you got to stop asking, how do I get more listings? And start asking, what problems am I uniquely equipped to handle? Because the market is not rewarding agents, it's rewarding solutionists. And that is a fact. So that being the case, what I did, I put together a PDF for you, going more in depth, that, I'm not going to go through it line by line. I encourage you to go through. I'm just pulling it up right now, though. I encourage you to go through, take time to read it, to understand it, to see what applies. Because here's the thing. All the teachings I've been doing over the past weeks, it's line upon line, precept upon precept. It's like building blocks. It's not fragmented, because, again, understanding niches. We gave you a list of 50 niches to begin to explore what resonates with you. Because when something resonates with you, many times it's easier for you to understand the solutions within that niche. So, case in point, I took on the niche of divorce real estate. I went and got trained up. I did classes. I did certifications, with like the National Association of Divorce Professionals. Really dug deep into it so I could understand it. And again, how could I help lead families through that? And the problem is with divorcees, they're usually always in the vast majority of time, the case I'm given, they're in the survival mode. They're in the limbic brain, fight, flight, or freeze. There is no executive reasoning. So I'm literally having to be the solutionist, sitting on the fence, being able to be impartial. One of them might be irrational, but I cannot take sides. I have to lead them through the process. And there's times, I've been at a signing with the notary where I had a full blow up. Monica and I were there. The notary was there. And the couple, it was like, I thought for sure this was falling apart. And in that moment, I was able to provide a solution in order to get to the finish line. So even being a solutionist, it's not done until it's done. And then even after that, I still get people reaching out to me. I had a closing like 2 weeks ago, and I still having to be a solutionist, because that's who I am. And so through this PDF, I really set it up for you to understand what is a solutionist. And again, I don't want you to just read it as what is solutionist. I would like you to look at, how am I a solutionist? Because every single one of us has to solve problems on a daily basis. We do it as individuals, we do it as parents, we do it as family members, we do it as friends. So why can you not be a solutionist when it comes to working with clients? And you're probably a solutionist in areas without giving that title, but I like to use the title so there's intentionality. So you start looking at real estate differently rather than having this wide view that you're just trying to get everybody. As you can look at what are your unique strengths, talents, gifts that you bring to the table, where you can be a solutionist in areas that I'm not going to be good at. You know, you might speak. I mean, I've talked with agents like who speaks a foreign language. Gabe, I know you speak Spanish. Who else? Nobody else?
Some
Kevin,
Spanish.
okay, Spanish.
Mandarin.
Kevin, you speak some Mandarin. Kevin, you speak some Portuguese.
Portuguese, yeah.
Okay. So just by default of language, you're going to be a solutionist in ways that I could never be because I simply don't speak another language. So, but it's you being able to get to the heart of what is the core need. And that comes from listening. So when you meet somebody, and it's even before the listing presentation, I have won listings in coffee shops simply by sitting there having a coffee, listening to somebody next to me share their problem with somebody else. You know, like I had one person who shared about they wanted to sell their home, but they know it's not updated and they don't have the money, but they don't want to take a loss on it. So I just, as I was listening, and I just said, hey, for what it's worth. And I said, there is a solution to that. And I explained to them the solution of, you know, and I did it where it didn't feel like a sell. I said, with my clients, what I do is I provide a solution where I come in as the listing agent. I have a contractor I've been working with for a long time that is willing to defer payment until closing. So whether that's $10,000 or $80,000, in order to get the home to appraised repair valued, essentially what that means is I'm able to flip the home for you. I'm able to navigate and be your project manager so you don't have to be. And then I'm able to get you the most amount of money without any money out of pocket. I said, you know, for my clients, they love it because they're always getting more than they expect. And then suddenly the person's like, are you able to help me? So I got their information, followed up, and I was able to win that listing. And I did that and got us to the finish line. So you never know where your clients are coming from. But when you just kind of dial in and listen, whether it's a coffee shop or you're talking with another agent or whoever that is, you provide a unique solution. The question is, what solutions can you provide? And that's where many times those are niche based. And as you tap into the solutions in the niche, that's where you can begin to then go to where I was training about videos. Begin to actually do videos sharing the answers or the solutions to the problems. Because many times when people have a problem, they're looking online for the solution. So why not be you doing a video providing a solution before they, you know, so essentially you're becoming the trusted authority. That's why videos are so impactful, because many times when somebody watches you, you resonate with them, you become that trusted person that you know, I think I mentioned to you before, you no longer have to audition for something that you've already won because you become that trusted source. So all of these things work together. Now, in the manual, I went through and talk about where listings are actually won. I talk about things like probate, inherited properties. I drove down over the weekend. I drove down Friday to Hollywood, Florida. We have somebody we know that their parents died and they have a $1.7 million home. That's if it's appraised, repaired value. But in the current, it's beautiful home, amazing lot, great neighborhood. It just needs updating. So I explained to them this home will probably sell about for $1.3 million as is. Or if we come in and I have my contractor do this and put about $100,000 into it, I have solid comps that I can get it to 1.7. Okay. So for $100,000, doesn't cost them anything out of pocket. I'm getting them an additional or essentially on top of what they pay, an additional $300,000 in their net proceeds. And but even then, I haven't done anything down in Hollywood, Florida. Most of my stuff has been Central Florida. Right now I'm doing one up on a closing today where it's up in Ponce Inlet. I've expanded it. So now my contractor is taking on jobs further out because they see it working. they're getting paid at closing, so they're adapting with me. So as I have a situation where I'm providing a solution to, my team is rising to the occasion and helping meet help provide the solution, so that when I went there on Friday, I was able to walk the home, and by Saturday I was able to explain it with confidence. Here's what my contractors can do. Here's how we can handle it. And so that's going to be a listing that I'm going to be getting because I provided a solution. And again, they lost their parents. They just haven't done real estate. They didn't know what to do. But at the end of the day, they want to be able to net the most amount of money. Does that make sense? So that's one situation as it deals with probate, because they got the house through probate. I mentioned many times divorce. Right now, I have 4 homes that are being renovated. I have one in Stony Brook that's going to be going live in a couple weeks. That was a complete rehab with roof, AC, exterior paint, interior, remodeling, new kitchen. We're in at about $80,000, and that's about to go live on the market. And that's a divorce situation. I have another one in Kissimmee, which is about a $70,000 renovation. I got another one that came about. If you scroll down, people have anxiety about pricing. So when you're coming in, they say maybe they're looking at Zillow, or maybe they had a friend tell them, and I just had this happen a couple weeks ago where somebody said, I know my house is 3,700 square feet, and the house down the road is 2,200 square feet, and that's $400 a square foot. So taking that $400, my house should be worth this. Well, my job was to provide a solution, but also to be clear, that's not how you do pricing. So I was honest with her and said, let me do this. I'm going to send you a seller's report, which will give you exactly the way an appraiser looks at it, using comparables of the most recent sold in the past 3 months, starting within this distance and then going out. So I was able to explain it with confidence, so that as I sent that to her, then I was able to explain why you don't want to overprice in this market. And then I was able to explain to her, here's what I can do as a solution to get the house ready to sell. And so it's those types of things that give people peace where they have anxiety. Timing and life constraints. One of the issues I've dealt with, some of these flips, people live in the homes. And the anxiety is, the timing of, we can't afford to move out, but we need to have the house flipped. So I provide a solution on how we're going to work with the contractor to live through the rehab, so it's as least stressful as possible. Because anybody that's lived through renovations know it can be stressful. So I'm coming in and I'm a solutionist through that process. So the thing is, when you come to terms that your job is solutionist more than just a real estate agent, and you're providing solutions every step of the way. And again, you're going to run into things where you might not know the solution. But that's why you have a great team. And it might be a team that is a coach. It might be a team member that is somebody in our brokerage. Whatever your team looks like, but just knowing you don't have to be the smartest one in the room. You don't have to have all the answers, but just knowing who to go to. Just like Gabe said, hey, I just hired this TC. Or hey, I have a contractor, or hey, I have an attorney. So if you want to do divorce, having a divorce attorney you can lean into and ask them for clarity of like, what does equitable distribution mean? Or hey, here's the situation. How would you recommend, that they proceed? So there's ways you're constantly looking at, how am I a solutionist? So I want to take a moment to look at, just go around the room quickly as I've been talking about this. I want you just to say maybe one area that you can see yourself being a solution base, because you should have looked at your niches. You've been thinking about your video. What's an area that you can be a solution in that you feel confident in? Daryl?
Well, right now I'm niching first-time home buyers. Then I'll expand that out to other niches. But that's
Awesome.
That's what I'm concentrating on now.
That's great.
Can I ask you one question before you move? On number 4, it says what a solutionist does. Can you expand more on the last 2 of those?
You mean under the pricing anxiety market condition?
Yeah, what a solutionist does.
Yeah,
I understand the first one, but the second 2, can you expand on?
Yeah. So it breaks down supply and demand in real time. So, it's knowing the market conditions. Like right now, we're in a situation where we are still a buyer's market, and we have double the amount of homes than we do buyers. And so it's one of the reasons days on market is a lot longer than it was 2 years ago. So when you look at supply and demand, it's important that you know. So if you have a listing where you're working on a listing in Winter Garden, and you know the zip code is 34787, then what you're going to want to do is get hyper localized and go in. And you can go in and you can do this through ChatGPT, AI. You can go to realtor.com and you can look at data of what is the days on market, what are some of the data that's available for that area. And if you know that there's a high supply of homes, it is then, just telling your clients, hey, I want to give you clarity around the expectation. Why it's important for us to price this right, because there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of supply, not as much demand. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Secondly, the positions pricing is a strategy, not a number. So the idea, for example, I've had some comps that come in. I had one come in at like 508. I had solid comps where I could say justifiably, yes, we can be a 508. But instead of just asking 508, which can be a weird number, some people might put 508 9990, whatever that is. What I explained to them is the principle of strategic bracketing, that it's much better if we can get that number instead of 508 to 500. Because when people do searches, they do them in increments like 400 to 500 or 500 to 600. And if you put it at 508, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to miss you in their search. So I get strategic and I explain that to them, saying the best thing we can do, it's better to go down a bit to the 500. So we're right on top of the fence. So anybody from 400 to 500 and 500 to 600 is going to find us. And the goal is that we will have more competition because we're pricing it right. And I always say, does that make sense to you? Yes. Great. And then we proceed. Does that kind of give you an example?
Yeah, or something like 49999.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has different things. I always experiment, but you can do that. I have a tendency, depending on the location and depending on the market. When a market, there's times that I'll intentionally still do like 399, 990, just psychologically, because the vast majority of the comps are in the threes. If you see a balance, then I'll tend to do more middle of the fence.
All right, cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. Let me see who else wants to talk. Just a niche. Alex, what's a niche you do? Or a solution you could provide to the niche. Alex, you there? Okay. Let me see here. Kevin.
As the two areas of upsizers for sure, having done it, lived it, I know what to look for, particularly if you have teenagers. You have to know going in, they're going to need their space away from the family. So I'm certainly aware of looking for solutions that provide that. And for people who want a home office, but their home office in the smaller home has been turned into either the laundry room or the playpen. So I take that into account. And with Brazilians, I'm aware of, they need other Brazilians to reach out to, not just the gringo. So they feel good if you have a Brazilian accountant here for them, a Brazilian lawyer here for them. So those are things that you're going to need to have right there that you're able to give to them so they feel more comfortable.
No, absolutely. So here's the thing. A lot of agents are coming in for the path of least resistance. They just want the listing. And they try to sell themselves on why they're number one and why they should be chosen. And there's times I tell people where they say to me, why should I choose you? And I always say, that's a great question. I don't know why you should choose me, because I also, I'm here to answer questions for you, and I have questions for you. And at the end, let's see if it's going to be right, if I'm the right person for this situation of selling your home. So that way they don't feel like I'm chasing them. And then secondly, what I do is, like, when I go into a listing, I walk in, I don't just step in trying to sell it, go in the listing presentation. I walk in intentionally, said, hey, do me a favor. I would love to see your home. And I go and I just observe and I ask questions and I start getting into like having them show me pictures of their family, just again, let them tell their story. And then in doing so, that's when I see the home might need updating. And that's where in the listing presentation, I will say, hey, we have a couple different options here. I can either sell the house as is, and here's what I estimate we'd be looking at based on what the market is telling us. Or I'm not sure if another agent has told you this, but I do have a solution that could actually get you much more money. Would you like to hear that? Yes. Great. So I ask their permission to share that. I don't just jump into it. And then I explain my solution. Hey, when I walked around, I noticed that your home, you mentioned you hadn't updated it. And what I do know in this market where there is a lot of supply and the demand isn't higher, a lot of buyers are preferring to go for homes that are updated because they don't have the reserve funds. Does that make sense? Yes. So one of the options that I find that really helps with selling my homes, where they tend to go for top dollar and go quicker, is where I'm able to have my contractor come in, do the renovations for you, okay, get it to what they call appraised repaired value. And in doing so, there's nothing out of pocket to you. You don't have to work on the renovations. I serve as your project manager. I guide the entire process. So I'll be communicating with the contractor and then relaying it to you, just like I would regardless. And then they'll defer payment. And I'm confident in doing so, we can get it to this price. And then I show them a seller net sheet. Every single time they choose the contractor. Okay. I'm going to say every time, 90% of the time they choose the contractor. And it's usually because there's a constraint that they need to sell right away. They don't have the option. And I explained the only difference with this solution is it's going to require about anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks worth of work. If I can get you an additional $300,000 in your net, does that additional 4 weeks make a difference? Yeah, absolutely. I'm in. And then I go into putting my solution into effect, contacting the contractors, having them come over, making that happen, and putting it together. Here's the other thing. By being a solution, you can actually ask more for your compensation. Gabe just said it. He and Thomas providing a solution, and they're able to get 6%, which they're holding 4%. On these listings, I'm able to ask, for up to 4.5% just on my side. And I explained to them, normally when I do a listing, I'm at 3%. But when I serve as your project manager, depending on the complexity, then I'm at 4 or 4.5. And so I'm able to ask more. And you know what? I never get kickback about that. Never. Because you know what? People, they don't want the stress of dealing with a contractor, making decisions. They just want it to be a smooth process. They want the money. Okay. Literally, it's like Jerry Maguire. Just show me the money. So I explained to them, so if I'm able to get you this much more money, doesn't it make sense why I charge just a little bit extra as project manager? Yeah. So I never run into an issue with that. So as you provide a solution, your value as an agent increases. So then you don't have to try to beg or negotiate your compensation. You earn what is rightfully yours. Okay? That's the power of being a solutionist. So my encouragement to you is go through this. Again, I put some of the things I'm doing: probate, divorce, home renovations. That's how, like right now, I got 3 closings today. I got another one where in a week and a half where, it needed $6,000 of roof repair damage. I brought a solution, brought in a contractor, deferred payment to closing, got past inspection, we're going to close. So it's finding those solutions along the way. And the more you do it and the more you are focused on that strategically, the better you will get. And the better you get, the more you'll niche down, the more you'll grow your business. And the agents who do this are the agents that win. And these are the agents that dominate in this shifting market. So it's about becoming more focused on your niche, communicating that niche through video or social media, whatever platform, and then actually being the solutionist. Okay. And if you don't know what that is, we can talk about it. We can get on a call. Use ChatGPT. Put in, here's my niche, here's my passions. How can I be a solutionist? And work at being the best solutionist you can be. And as you do that, your clients win, you win, and the byproduct is those clients are the ones who are referring new people to you. And there's nothing as sweet as referral business. I'm telling you that right now. That's a way to build a business. Any final questions or comments?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
So are you doing all that on your initial meetup with the person, with the client? Like,
Great question.
Are you like jumping on RPR right away to get an idea of what the value is?
Yeah. So what I do ahead of time is when I'm doing my pre-listing meeting call, I'm conversational. I'm not getting into trying to sell myself. I'm just saying, hey, tell me more about you. This is where I'm asking about them. I'm letting them talk, because as I'm listening, I'm earning the right to then share. So then I'll ask them questions like, how long you been in the home? Oh, I've been here since 1990. Really? Have you done any updates to the home? No. Ding, ding, ding. I know right away it's going to need updating. Okay. So then, hey, have you had any major repairs? Or is there any concerns with the home that would prevent it from selling? And then I'm just asking questions. I'm taking notes while I'm having the conversation. So I'm not going into that meeting blind. So what I'm doing is I'm doing RPR. I'm doing a seller's report based on if I was to sell it as is. And then I'm also looking at what it will sell if I update it. Now, obviously, I need it to be fluid, because if I go in, there's a lot more damage. That's where I can say to the sellers, hey, I put together some preliminary information, but obviously, as you know, I had to see the home first. Now, here's kind of what I'm thinking about. But now that I know that your ceiling's falling down, those are things that I just didn't know until I got here. So I have to go back and run some more numbers. But here's a range of what I believe you can get if we go this route. Okay. So you don't have to lock yourself in, but you're at least going in informed and armed with the data to help navigate that process. Great question. Who else? Any other questions? Nobody? All right. That being said, my challenge to you guys is, again, there's one thing to have knowledge and teaching and learnings. It's another thing to apply it. When you apply it, it starts to become second nature. And then suddenly you're finding solutions everywhere. Become known for the person that's a solutionist. That's going to be the person that's going to get referred. But I encourage you, it starts with going through, reading this data, looking for the revelation of what areas, what niches, how can you communicate that? How do you make yourself known and irreplaceable and referable? You do that, you're going to build a business that's going to dominate. You will flourish even in any market. No matter what the market looks like, you will dominate. So that being said, I appreciate you guys being here, and really excited to see, in a few months, 6 months, a year, all these things be applied and watch you guys winning beyond even what you were expecting. So have a blessed day, blessed week, and thanks for being a part of Maverick. Truly grateful for you all. All right, take care.